So good morning. As mentioned, my name is Colin Dirksen. I'm the Acting Superintendent with the Edmonton Police Service Criminal Investigations Division. Thanks for taking time out of your day to come join us and speak about the two deaths in southeast Edmonton yesterday. And before we begin, I'd like to take a second, thank our Southeast Branch patrol officers and all the other first responders who were there to attend yesterday's shooting. There is no doubt it was a very difficult scene to be at. So as outlined in last night's media release, at approximately 12 o'clock p.m. yesterday, as November 9th, officers responded to a reported shooting outside of a business area in 50th Street and Ellerslie Road area. And this was an A&W petrol can business. And upon arrival, officers located two males. One was aged 41 and the other just 11 years old in medical distress. And these two were father and son. EMS responded, however, both father and son succumbed to their injuries on scene. There was another child in the vehicle at the time who was the same age as our deceased boy. He was unrelated to that father and son, and thankfully he was unharmed, physically anyway. A short time later, officers were notified of a vehicle on fire in the area of 34th Street and Township Road 510. So that's just north of Beaumont. At this time, although we do suspect this is the same vehicle used by the suspects in the shooting, homicide detectives are working hard to investigate this to confirm the link. And we'll keep you updated on that. No one was located inside that burnt vehicle, and no injuries have been reported as a result of the fire at this time. I can tell you that EPS homicide section is now leading the investigation and determined that this was a targeted, what we would call a targeted shooting event. And I think later on we'll take a minute to just explain a little bit more about what we mean by that. The autopsies have been scheduled for Monday and Tuesday of next week, and as always, we'll provide updates on the investigation as well as confirmation of both cause and manner of their deaths after those autopsies. It's upsetting for me to be here today to confirm the death of a child following a shooting event. The loss of a child at the hands of gun violence is an unthinkable tragedy, and one we should never have to report on in our city or anywhere. It's understandable that Edmontonians are shaken today, and in particular those who live in the area where the shooting took place and possibly saw it happen. There were many eyewitnesses to this. And it goes without saying that a public shooting in broad daylight near a busy shopping complex in a city is extremely dangerous. And I'll add that we know there was also a daycare right next door to where this happened. And even though this was a targeted event, the risk to members of the public was significant and terrifying, really, when you think about it. This incident is just another reminder, a stark reminder of the dangers that bystanders face when violence erupts in public spaces. And I wish I didn't have to say things like that, but unfortunately it's happening all too often. So driving, shopping, walking, doing whatever near your home should not be unsafe like this. And we're lucky that we're not reporting on additional deaths or injuries today. Unfortunately, gun violence remains an ongoing trend in Edmonton. And this is not the first time members of the public, including kids and families, have been put at risk like this, serious risk. I'll give you some examples. In March of last year, a targeted shooting endangered a family at a restaurant full of people. On June 24th of this year, a man and his family, including a child in a stroller, if you can believe, were targeted in a brazen shooting, putting numerous community members at risk. Just recently, on October 19th, just a few weeks ago, an EPS officer and multiple families in their homes were endangered in a southeast Edmonton drive-by shooting. Additionally, our data tells us that the EPS has responded to 196 shooting occurrences citywide as of yesterday, including yesterday's event. 196. That's a 46% increase in shootings compared to the same time last year. And just to give you a reference point, last month alone, in October, 7 of the 13 reported shootings resulted in injuries to people, and 11 had the potential for innocent bystanders, including kids, to be harmed. Most of the, thankfully I can say that still most of the shootings are believed to be targeted, which brings us small consolation, but it does make a difference. These reckless actions show all too clearly that the landscape has changed out there. And, this really bugs me. There's no longer any respect for children, families, innocent citizens amongst our rival organized crime groups, our gangsters, when they carry out violence to further their own interests. That's changed in the wrong way. And that's a trend that can't continue. So this morning, I want to just assure Edmontonians that gun violence remains a significant public safety concern for us as the police. And with the help of our areas like our Guns and Gangs section, our Edmonton Drug and Gang Enforcement section, our firearm investigation and examination units, the EPS will continue to work our hardest to investigate these events the best we can and actively remove firearms from our streets. So at the same time, though, we'd like to encourage citizens, especially those who may have witnessed yesterday's shooting, to continue to reach out to us with information about violence in their communities. Anytime they have something to add, bring it to our attention. And as it relates to yesterday's event, you can expect some photos of the suspect vehicle and the suspects themselves to release to the public, just to help with identification and tips. So as always, we need the public to act as our eyes and our ears, and to work together to build a safer city. We can't do it on our own. So. We got other things I could say, but I think probably at this point I'll open it up for questions. And just keep in mind that I'll just qualify it by saying that we're just hours into this investigation, so there's going to be some things I can't answer at this point to protect the integrity of the investigation and safety of others who may or may not be involved. We just don't know yet. But yeah, I'll take questions.
Was killed was targeted in another shooting at Royal Pizza 2 years ago.
He was, same man.
Can you confirm the name of the man?
I can, and I'll just before I do, I'll say that our process these days in homicide has been for years. We'll withhold the name of homicide victims until autopsy is complete, so that we can be sure that the manner of death is deemed a homicide. But there are times where, and those aren't going to be till next week, but there are times we make exceptions if there's public safety issues or there's an investigative need, i.e. tips that could be generated if we release names. So in this case, I will. So our 41-year-old deceased male, the father, is named Harpreet UPPAL.
Could you spell that for us?
Harpreet, Harpreet. His surname UPPAL, UPPAL. He's 41 years old.
And can you confirm the name of his son as well?
I will not. At this point, it's just too early for us to know, in the interests of privacy for the family and anyone else who could be negatively impacted by that release. It's too early. I'm not going to. But I will also add that there was a third should have added it in here. There was a third occupant of the vehicle. There was another young child in the vehicle at the time of the shooting. He was roughly the same age as our deceased boy. He was not related in the family. And thankfully, he's unharmed. In fact, I think I might have said that. I'm not sure.
If I'm not mistaken, there was a charge laid in connection with the Royal Pizza shooting. I think the accused was named Harsh Jindal. I understand that maybe his charge was just stayed. Is that something that you can comment on at all? And
I won't get into the details, but his charge was dropped, yes. Yeah. And that was the name of the person who was charged in that.
This is obviously weighing on you. I'm just wondering, today, standing here and talking about this child who was caught in this, just how are you doing? How are your officers doing?
Well, I mean, we appreciate you asking the question. Thank you for showing that concern. It's just, we've had a number of tough files this year, including the loss of our own officers, right? And we always get asked that in homicide and other areas too. And I'll just say that our members are focused, and thankfully they have a task to do where they can try to bring some good of this, and if it's even possible, bring some closure to the family and some justice, especially for this little guy. And so they just get charged and energized by that they have something they can do to help. So, yeah, they're doing okay. We'll get through it. Thank you.
How about you, though?
I'm okay. Yeah, thanks.
Talking about the gang activity that is happening in the city and just how serious it is, and I know you said that Edmonton Police is focused on getting guns off the street, but in the meantime, there is a lot of people who are scared, especially, we talked to a woman yesterday who was going to the dentist who thought about going to that A&W. So how can people in the city trust that they are safe when they leave their house?
Well, I guess none of us ever really know, but I would say take comfort knowing that our officers out there at all levels, they're very diligent, they're working very hard, being proactive to try to, we share intelligence right down to the street level so that they can be proactive in trying to suppress, and that's part of our gang strategy, try to suppress stuff before it happens, gun and gang strategy. And, we do our best to put people away who've committed crimes of all levels, especially violence. And we can never measure prevention, but you hope in doing that we've prevented violence from getting even worse, ultimately to homicides. We'll never know. But I would just encourage people to, not lose faith. Trust us that we're working on it. They play a role as well in the public to help us, as I mentioned. But just, this is a tough one because I don't want to, create a bunch of fear out there in the public and get people so terrified. But at the same time, I would say that this city it has become so much more violent in the last few years. And this stuff happens so often out there in the public and people are put at risk where before they weren't like that. So we just encourage people to be vigilant, be aware of their surroundings, of their safety, don't put themselves in unnecessary risk. People say, well, what does that mean? Like, what's an example of that? Well, don't be picking fights at a bar at 2 a.m. Those days are over. Don't be following the guy that cuts you off when you're driving to and from work to have words with him. Because there's unstable people. There's people who are very willing to use violence, and there's a lot of weapons out there. So just be smart, and I think those are things people can do very easily to keep themselves safe.
I know it's early in the investigation, but I'm wondering if you could speak to if you believe the 11-year-old son was just caught in the crossfire or if he was deliberately targeted.
Okay, that's a good question, and that's the one I wanted to loop back around to when I talked about what targeted means to us. when I say targeted, in our world, especially when we're dealing with, gangsters, what we mean by that is, like Mr. Uppal, we absolutely believe he was targeted in the sense that he was followed with the intention of finding him and ending his life. And it happened. With a young boy, his son, we don't know yet. And I hope we learn for sure that it wasn't the case that he was followed with the intention of killing him. So we don't know that he was targeted in that sense. But what we do know, and sadly, is that once the shooter or the shooters learned that the son was there, they intentionally killed him, shot and killed him. So he was not caught in a crossfire or killed by mistake. Intended to kill him. And that's what I talk about. This line in the sand with organized crime, that's just changed. Like, that is sick and twisted, and I think most gang members would agree. Just don't see that kind of thing happening.
And we're hearing rumors that the 41-year-old man who was that target was involved with some gangs in BC. Is there anything that you can confirm about that?
I'm not going to get too far into his criminal history. I appreciate the question, though. I will say, though, just so you understand that Mr. Uppal was very well known to us, high up in the gang drug world. And again, as we talked about, including the Royal Pizza, there have been attempts on his life. And we had worked very hard over the years to try to warn and give him opportunities to step out of that lifestyle and keep him and his family safe.
Have any arrests been made? Are there any suspects? And should the public be concerned about their immediate safety?
No arrests yet. Again, very active. We're just hours into the investigation. It's going to take some time. I don't think, again, it's so crazy to say it, but thankfully there's something in the fact that it was targeted, in that your general members of the public aren't at risk from the people who carried this out.
We know that there is some history, as this does go back to the Royal Pizza shooting. Can you confirm if Harsh Jindal was released from jail 3 to 4 days ago?
Well, I can't confirm because I don't know specifics. I just know that his charges were dropped. Yeah.
Can you just walk me through, again, the scene that officers arrived to yesterday? So were the 3 people you mentioned all in a vehicle when officers came on the scene, and 2 of them had injuries?
The one young boy who got away unharmed physically, he was not in the vehicle. He managed to get away. Both deceased adult male, Mr. Uppal, and his son were found in the vehicle. Life-saving measures were attempted unsuccessfully.
Were there bullet holes in that vehicle?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that stands to reason. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have to wrap it up soon here, so just maybe one more question each, if you guys are okay with that.
Sorry, I just want to make sure that I'm asking the correct one. Do you have any sense of if this was retaliation for something, and how concerned are you that we will see further retaliation as a result of this?
Well, like I talked about earlier, when we're dealing with drug and gang world, or shootings, homicides that are connected to drug and gang world, often the motivation is just a struggle for power control over that world. Sometimes it's just retaliation, personal beefs, whatever. They're ultra violent, and they'll go to those lengths. We don't know what the exact motivation was for this, or if it was for retaliation. We just know from experience that it's connected to that world. It's going to have something to do with the drug and gang industry.
Was the burnt-out vehicle a stolen vehicle, do you know? Or?
It was. I'll go so far as to say it was. And again, I can give a description of it. Again, we'll send the images out later, but well, I think we'll probably send out images of the burnt vehicle and the suspect vehicle, but we're still trying to make that link to confirm. But the suspect vehicle, I'll say, is a 2012 BMW X6, black in color. And yeah, it was stolen.
So with the third child being non-related to the two, do you know if they were a friend? And can you also tell me what were they doing at the time? Do you know if they were filling up for gas? Were they trying to go into A&W? Do you know those details?
I can say that the young guy was a friend of our deceased boy. I don't know exactly yet what they were doing, but they had gone inside the A&W petrol can. Yeah.
When it comes to this being gang activity, how confident are you that you will be able to find the suspects and arrest them?
Well, I mean, we're going to give it everything we got. Not pulling out all the stops. We lost a child here.
Is the victim's family cooperating with police during this investigation?
I can't say with confidence, and we've made. Again, I haven't been working with the family. I'd have to defer to my team commander or the detectives, homicide detectives. But they're certainly engaged with us, and we're sharing information. Yeah, we'll know more in the coming days. I will say though that our crime and trauma support services, we used to call victim services unit, is certainly engaged with everybody who was impacted by this, including witnesses. And again, there were many.
Sorry, one last really quick one. Carolyn had mentioned that you were going to be sharing like the footage of this press conference with other agencies across the country. Like how, like are there connections to Toronto? We've heard things that there might have been a homicide in Toronto, that this could have been retaliation for. Like how cross-national is this, I guess?
Well, there's always the potential. It's kind of no borders with organized crime, but I don't know if there's a connection, or if there is, how far-reaching it is at this point. Still too early, till we know who the players are that are involved.
And the last one for me, I just want you to confirm if this boy, the 11-year-old, was shot and killed intentionally.
He was.
Can you confirm that?
Yeah, that's our belief.
Thank you.